Traditionally, I've never really been a fast kind of start guy. And so I really just think there's not this one big glaring thing. It's just a little thing here, little thing there, which I think is why we can be encouraged as an offense that it's not that far off. And we're a group that's not going to panic.
So, Bart, and obviously they were your arch rival when you were in Baltimore all those years. The comment that I made watching that game on Sunday was it felt like watching the end of something against a Cincinnati Bengals team. Do you think we are seeing the end of Ben Roethlisberger? And I don't mean the end of the season, I mean right now.
Well, if I'm going to give anybody the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to give Ben Roethlisberger the benefit of the doubt. I can remember going back to the year that the Denver Broncos won the championship. Peyton Manning was a shell of himself. We talked about the Wounded Ducks. We made fun of it. But he was able to be able to manipulate defenses with his mind. Ben doesn't, I don't believe, gets the credit for the great quarterback, the Hall of Fame player that he is. I think they'll figure it out, but it's no way that he can be throwing the ball 58 times. When you put the ball up 58 times, something's bad going to happen, whether tip ball, sack, fumble, or something like that. They have to stick true to their blueprint. And their blueprint is running the football and playing great defense. Now, I know it's a little more difficult to play defense when you don't have T.J. Watt, but if they get T.J. Watt back healthy, they can win ugly. Remember how we won with, Mark's rookie year, throwing the ball. You look at Baker Mayfield, he throws the ball like 21 times a game. If you can get it down to there, take the air out of the game, and be able to run the football effectively, they'll have an opportunity, and they'll be there right at the end for a wild card
spot. That's a far cry, though. I mean, they threw it 58 times this week to go from 58 to 21. Yeah. And to run the ball effectively, they haven't been able to run the ball in 2 years. So what do you think? What are we seeing right now in Ben?
I don't like that look on your face, D-Wood.
I think Ben is what we call washed. I do. Listen, I could go into a soliloquy about Big Ben's career and all that. He's going to be first ballot Hall of Fame, but I'm talking about the here and now. Anyone who watches the Pittsburgh Steelers, in particular Big Ben, I mean, he's like a statue in the pocket. Like, I don't even know if he's a shell of what he used to be, like the guy that could move around and throwing people off of him. There is none of that now. He doesn't push the ball down the field. Yeah. Everything seems like it's just like almost like a check down, basically. Yeah. And I just when I look at Big Ben, and Pittsburgh Steelers, like Ben is the worst quarterback in that division. Oh yeah. And I don't even think it's close. Okay. He's the worst quarterback in that division. And if that's what you're working with, but I just don't know about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, this is still a man last year that had him 11-0, and that's before T.J. Watt got hurt. I understand that. But we've seen quarterbacks in the same situation. I mean, we've seen Drew Brees just last year couldn't push the ball down the field. They found ways to move the football. Now, I know he had a much better offensive line, but we saw Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was throwing hand grenades to people out there, and they were making it work. And I would argue that you look at the skill position players that he has from a wide receiver standpoint, they should be better. That should be an extension of the run game, because that's what it was last year. Short passes, bubble screens, like little things of that sort was an extension of the running game as Najee Harris is able to adjust to the game. Listen, the Steelers and the Ravens have always been teams within that division that get you in November and December because it becomes a battle of attrition. When everybody's hurt, that's when that run game picks up.
Will Ben Roethlisberger be the starting quarterback all season there? If he take injury out of it, is that team going to have a season that is worthy of a 39-year-old quarterback playing all the way to the end?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to bench Big.
No, even to see what they have in Dwayne Haskins. No. Well, they got to. I mean, let's see what happens. You've got Dwayne Haskins sitting there. It's time to. At some point, do you need to figure out whether you need to go all in on finding someone else?
That's where they made the critical mistake. Bill Walsh, the legendary 49ers coach, he always said, get rid of a player a year early than a year too late.
Again,
that's where they messed up.
The Steelers have never been that organization. The Ravens have never been that organization. They allow you to go out on your sword. The Ravens held on to Ray Lewis too long. They held on to Troy Polamalu too long.
And they're going to pay for it.
Perhaps.
They got 2 Super Bowls.
And I'm just reminded, but Dwayne Haskins, I'm not telling you he can play. I'm saying he was a first-round pick 4 years ago, not 20 years ago. So it might be worth finding out what he can do at some point this year if the whole thing goes sideways. In the meantime, they have a tough game this weekend. Our friends at Caesars have the Green Bay Packers, a 6.5-point favorite in their matchup with Pittsburgh this weekend. And our analytics agree, giving the Pack a 61% chance to come out with a victory on Sunday. Green Bay has been such an interesting story. And Bart, I've been looking forward all week to ask you this. Yeah. You just mentioned the tiers. We opened this morning with you saying you think the Cowboys are the best of the second-tier teams in the NFC. Yeah. What tier is Green Bay on?
Green Bay is the last of the top tier, right? They're the last of the top tier.
I love your specificity.
They're the last of the top tier. Listen, they're figuring it out. They can play the type of defense they played last week as far as physicality, being able to try and stop the run, get to the passer. Then they'll be right there because we understand that Aaron Rodgers is all world and Aaron Jones has really added that element that they need to make you have to put that eighth man in the box. And we see how funny it is to A.A.R. once he sees, you decide to leave Adams by himself or you give him an opportunity to use his football acumen. They're figuring it out. I still think that they're the last of that top tier. Can they beat Tampa? I don't know. Can they beat the Rams? I don't think so. To me, it's the Rams and everybody else right now.
Listen, when you got Aaron Rodgers playing the way he's playing, anything's possible. I do agree the defense needs to show me a little more, but I mean, there's not. Who's out there playing better than Aaron Rodgers, really? Aaron Rodgers is
Matthew Stafford. That's who.
Matthew Stafford's on a better team, but I mean, blow for blow, throw for throw. Is there a quarterback? Who you taking over Aaron Rodgers?
Listen, I've always said this, right? And people always laugh at me, think I'm trying to be hot takey. But I've always said that Matthew Stafford was just as good as Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. And now people at the end of the season are going to believe and understand that I wasn't just out there just trying to throw stuff out in the air. He is a talented football player, man.
Is it the Rams and everybody else?
No, it's never that in this league. No, the Rams are, to me, the top team.
Deshaun Jackson makes them elite.
He brings a different element, speed to their offense.
You know what else? Yesterday, Justin Fields was a full participant in practice. Andy Dalton, a limited participant. Here's Matt Nagy talking about Fields' first start. Take a listen.
He's going to have a lot of different games in his career, and that one was a rough one, and I put that on me. That's on me for why that went that way, and I got to learn from that, and we got to learn from that. But I think we have some answers, which is good.
Did you decide who's going to be the play caller on Sunday?
We've had some amazing, healthy conversations between coaches and coaches, between coaches and players. I'm going to keep that internal. The criticism's fair. I go back to the game. You got to move on, but you also got to accept it. That's what I'm going to do moving forward.
Well, look, you want to be an NFL head coach. You're going to have weeks like this, and Matt Nagy is certainly having that week. Lewis, you know him well. What is your reaction to what we saw last week and where it goes from here?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, starting with Matt, I think he knows that there are things that maybe he overestimated, didn't put enough of a spotlight on, and things during before the game even started, as far as what Justin's comfort level was, what he was going to be able to handle from a responsibility standpoint at the line of scrimmage in that game, and then how he was able to adjust and get them in rhythm once they got into the game. He knows that there are ways in which he did not get it done in that regard, and as he said, he's going to have to learn from that, and he's going to have to be much better with that. Number two, look, I also know why he didn't want to play it, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that this offensive line, as you saw in that game, look, when you call three-step drop and your quarterback on the third step is getting his face smashed, that isn't play calling. That's just called, I don't have people up front right now who can get it done. And we know, as far as protecting young quarterbacks, that's really where it all starts, with them up front. And this team, it's just not set up right. It's just not. For a young quarterback, he needs to really, as far as he's concerned, he needs to stay on the bench and really sit and learn. And then number three, look, Justin just needs more time. He just does. That does not mean that he is not going to be a great quarterback, because they still believe he's going to be a great quarterback. But he needs more time. He will benefit from sitting behind Andy Dalton or whoever else they decide to put out there, Nick Foles, if they trot him out there next. But look, there's a lot of things that are going wrong up there right now. It starts with the head coach. It kind of filters to the offensive line. Justin has some responsibility in it, and it's something they're going to have to dig themselves out of. But this is just not a good situation right now.
D-Wood, you have a skeptical look.
Well, listen, Greeny, we know how last week went.
Yeah.
Here on Get Up, my brother Lewis Riddick was, we were kind of going toe-to-toe a little bit. And the fact that, I mentioned Nick Foles, everything just blew up. It just blew up talking about Nick Foles because of the fact that,